Okay guys, so I'm back from my long hiatus from YouTube. Apologize for that guys, I've been in college, I just haven't had time to do videos. But today I have a very special video, not super special, but another YouTuber, Chris Gillian, I can't really pronounce his last name worth anything because I can't English. But he sent me a box of traps and he was like, hey look man, I want these to be as comfortable and cause as least damage to these animals and be as nice as I can to these animals as possible. So he sent me a bunch of these traps. He was like, hey man, can you modify these traps for me? And I was like, sure. So that's just a trap. We're trying to be, we're trying to be good to the animals we trap, because we're trying to be ethical people here. But he sent me a bunch of traps, including this 1 3/4. I'm not really sure what it is, to be honest with you. It's got a bridger pan on it. It's got a bridger pan. You can't really read it, but it has a different kind of hookup. So I'm thinking it's a Northwoods for a bridger pan. I'm not sure. It might just be one of the older style bridger 1 3/4. But he sent me this trap along with a bunch of other ones, and he wants them all tricked out and everything. So that's what we're gonna do today. I have a lot better equipment now. Still I'm a little old welder, but I have some nicer pads, grinding pads and files, and I got all my stuff organized. So this should be a much nicer video than usual. But for this little trap, what we're gonna do here, first of all, we gotta clean it up a little bit. This has been painted red with Rust-Oleum. So we're gonna take a flat disc, clean all that off. I want to cut this connection out, replace that with a base plate, and we're going to add a Sterling style swivel to it. Probably replace all the J-hooks too while we're at it. We're definitely going to laminate it, and we might foil coil it. So this should be a pretty good video for y'all. If I have some more springs, we might replace the springs on it because it's kind of ate out. But anyway, we're going to put this here in the vise and we're going to get to work. Okay everybody, so here's the trap. We got the jaws clamped down in the vise, and we're basically about to do our prep work before we actually start doing any welding to it. And first thing we want to do is just cut this funky old connection out. To be honest, functionally, I don't think there's a problem with this, but it's just kind of, it could be better. So we're going to cut that out. So using a pair of bolt cutters, none fancy here. Cut that. There we go. Now this is still some pretty good chain. I don't have any extra chain, so we're just going to save this one. Just going to put this over here in the save pile. Now we need to prep this. The base plate here, we don't need to prep the whole deal, but we're going to prep the spots we're going to weld in it. So our base plates that we're making for this are made of nails, 20D nails. And I make all my J-hooks, base plates, or whatever with this trapper's bender tool. And guys, if you're going to do your own trap modifications, I highly advise getting one of those. It's less than $30, I think, for one of those. And it just saves you so much money from having to buy, like, pre-made base plates and pre-made swivels. So I love mine. I think this is the second generation they're doing now, and they're just great. I had to buy 2 of them because I used my last one. I used it so much I just wore it out, so I had to buy a new one. But if you're going to modify your own traps for a lot, I highly advise getting one. But as far as our base plate, it's going to go right here. So we're going to clamp it on each side. We're going to weld it down. But we need to clean off our base material so we can get a good connection, because this is the last thing you want popping off. If your lamination pops off, that's one thing. You're still going to hold the animal. But if your base plate pops off, you're going to have an animal running around with a trap on its foot, and that's not good for anybody. So to clean it off, we're going to use a flap disc. And what this is, basically, is just a grinding disc comprised of little bitty pieces of sandpaper. This is 36 grit. It's a bit thick. It's a bit heavy for what we want, but it's just going to take off the paint and a light layer. And word of advice on these is I keep all of them even after they're kind of worn down, because once they're worn down, you can use those to really polish up metal very well. So even if once it wears out, keep it, because you can usually polish stuff up real nice. like sharpening axe heads or redoing your lamination. So when you use this, take off some of this paint. We're not going to grind down these rivets. There's 2 of them right here. But we're just going to knock some of this paint off real quick. So, and before you start, make sure you have eye pro on. Last thing you want is some of this metal getting in your eye. It hurts. Okay, so that's basically all we want to do for our base plate, because our base plate is going to lay like this once we cut this end off when we clamp it down. So we can keep this piece painted. That's no big deal, because if we try to do any more of that, we want to grind that. We want to grind those rivets off, and we'll have to re-weld it. So no point in doing all that. So next, we got to do the jaws, because this is where our lamination is going to be. So we're going to go ahead and grind our jaws. Do the same thing. So make sure you got your phone, but no. So we got the main top cleaned out, we got the sides cleaned out, but we're going to also, blah, 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 blah. We're also going to offset this trap, so we also want to get the inside out. So, to do that, we're just going to actually set the trap. And once we set the trap, we're going to get a pair of vice grips and just clamp down. I'm going to do that right now, actually. We'll use a pair of needle nose vice grips just to clamp the jaws down. Because if you don't, when you start going through here, it's gonna you're gonna wriggle the pan down. You're gonna set the trap off. Your trap's gonna end up clamping onto your flap disc, and it's just not gonna be good for anybody. So it's gonna. Clamp that down. Since we're using such a heavy grip on that sandpaper disc, we're going to just take kind of light swipes of everything and just try and go on one full motion, so we just don't have any like really bad dips or divots in here. So try to clean all this up real nice. Got the bottom jaw cleaned up nice. Now we gotta do the opposite jaw, so we're just gonna flip it around. And we just clamped it to our base plate. Well, yeah. Clamped to the base plate right there, which probably would have been a better idea in the beginning, but, you know, what can you do? So. Okay, so that's about 99% of our prep work. We already got most of our other stuff made. So now it's time for our laminations. Okay, everybody, so we got our prep work done. We got it for the base plate and laminations. Got that prep work done. So now what we're going to do is actually going to do our welding. We're actually going to weld on our laminations and everything. And what we're going to actually use for laminations, so I can find the doggone things, I just cut them. Oh, here we go. I'm sorry. I'm going to be using some, I think these are 16D nails that I cut both the heads off of. Usually what I use for my laminations, because I'm usually working with larger traps with a little more carrying capacity, a little heavier springs. Because I'm using this, it's about 10 gauge, it's not 1/4 inch, but about this 10 gauge cattle panel pieces. But on this small of a trap, with the springs it has on it, I don't have any bigger springs for it. I don't think it's going to be able to carry these too well, so I'm going to use these. And it's going to be one on each side, just top jaw laminations. And as you see, that nail is about the same diameter of the actual jaw, same width of the jaw. So when I put it on here and grind everything flush, it's basically going to be about twice the actual coverage. So that's going to be a lot nicer on the animal's foot, and it's going to displace a lot more pressure better. So the way we're going to laminate this trap is pretty simple. What we're going to do is we're going to take a piece of flat metal. Right here I'm just going to use a knockout plate, and we're going to just slide it in between the jaws here. Okay. Now what this is going to allow us to do is take these lamination pieces and just butt them up right against that, so we get them flush with the jaw, and we got them all walked over and stuff. So all we're going to do now is just going to clamp this in. I highly advise needle nose vice grips for this, because it's a lot easier to work with. So try to get centered up a little bit. Okay, people, so now we have it all vice gripped up here. And this is a lot easier to vice grip this on larger traps, but it's kind of a pain with the smaller stuff because the metal doesn't want to bend as well because of the length. But anyway, how we're going to weld this is we're going to tack to the nail, to the plate, to the nail, to the plate, and we're going to do one right here to the nail, to the plate, or you could do one on either side. Machine we're using is just a 90 amp flux core wire welder from Harbor Freight. You can pick them up for like $100. They don't do the best welds in the world, but once you can learn how to control that puddle real well, you can do some pretty okay welds. So I'm gonna crank her up. Now I'm gonna tell you guys, this machine is a little temperamental, so it might take me a time or two to actually get a good weld going on some of these, but we're gonna try. So make sure you put it on your gloves or whatever. This is a very low voltage machine type deal, but still, you don't want to get burned because it will burn you. Go ahead, hook up your lead. Oopsie. Lead up. We're gonna put it on the middle one. We're gonna do this one first. Okay, everything good. I got my heat on max right now. It only has minimum and maximum settings, but that's what we're doing. Take my medic pliers and trim that little excess right there. Alright. We'll start on the nail and then go down to the base metal. Alright, there's our weld. Okay. Reclamp it. Now we're going to do our middle weld, nail to the base. Okay, there's that weld. Go over to the other side and we're going to do the nail to the base. Okay, there we go. As you see, we do have a lot of slag in here, a lot of these little BBs, but that's just the nature of flux core. In all honesty, it doesn't use any gas whatsoever, but it uses a powder coating type deal. Not powder coating, but it uses a flux coating, and when it burns, it creates a lot of these little BBs that pop everywhere. So once you get one of these machines, don't expect, you know, to be like stacking dimes like with a TIG or something. But once you learn how to like use it properly, you can do just about anything a trapper should need, especially if you have a good grinder with you. Okay, there we go. Gonna take our brush here and with this little hard stuck on stuff, you might have to get a chipping hammer. Come back with a wire wheel. I don't have a wire wheel, but you really don't need to do all this, but I do because I like. I like my work to look nice, but if you had a wire wheel, you can just come through here and it'll pop all that off. So I'm finna go ahead and do the second one off camera, and we'll be back when we do that. Okay, everybody, so we went and got our laminations done. I let them cool down a bit. I'm gonna pop this out real quick. Our grinding left us with kind of an offset already, so that's gonna help when we offset. But let's set the trap. See what it looks like. As you see, guys, that's a nice looking lamination. We want to grind it down. You see we're not completely flush. See, it comes over a little bit right here, but that's no big deal at all. You could use that just like it was and it'll be perfectly fine, but we're still going to grind it down, flush it up a bit. But next thing we got to do while we're welding is we're going to go ahead, we're going from the top down. Just easier to work like that, so I'm not going to just go straight over to the base plate. I already got the chain and the base plate made, but we're finna go ahead and work on the jaws while we're still on the jaws. And that's called having a system, and it just works better. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to offset it. Now, how we're going to offset it, we're going to be using the tacking method. The tacking method is basically the same as the lugging method, but I have a different spin on it. So basically, all we're going to do is we're going to take our welder and we're going to do a tack weld right here. And we're going to do a tack weld right here. We can do one here and we can do one here. It's pretty simple. So we're about to, again, pretty easy to do here. Just gonna take our electrode clamp, put it down. Make sure y'all get it in focus here. Make sure y'all see everything going on. Okay. Prop right there. I can't really see that. There we go. I want to do a bubble weld right here. And when we're doing these bubble welds, you're basically stacking welds on top of each other if you don't have a really good machine. You're going to do a little weld, let it cool down, you're going to come right back on and do another weld on top of that. especially on the doggone side, because if you don't and you don't have your springs off, you can end up warping this whole jaw out, and we don't want that, especially with a stronger trap. So make your weld, let it cool a little bit, come back and do another weld on top of it. If you wonder why it's on fire, that's just because of the paint, but okay. That's our first one. And we're going to do one on the opposite end of the opposite jaw. So we're going to clamp it, come right here and do one. Whoa. Sorry y'all, as I said, my machine is a little temperamental because it's old as dirt. Alright, and there's our second one. So I'm just going to snap our trap off. See, that makes us a nice little offset. Now, what we're going to actually want to do is come back. Now, this trap is made differently from other ones. For some reason, this is why I don't think it's a regular bridger. But we're finna come back a little bit. And we're finna come and grind some of this down to let these levers come up a little more, get a little higher reach on it. But we're still in the welding phase. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go to the bottom and we're going to do our base plate. Now, I didn't have any more chains, so I just redid his chain. But I added 2 Sterling style swivels. And these are made with nails and a 5/16 nut. And guys, I'm telling you, these swivel better than most factory swivels. So that's why I like putting them on people's traps. Word of advice, when you actually start making these, once you make them, take them and just rotate them a little bit to make sure that they're actually functioning. Because sometimes when you weld the nut on, it might weld onto the J hook a little bit, and you might not have it, function after, might have to wait till the second or third ammo for that thing to actually loosen up. So just take a second to do that. But here's the base plate, made from a 20D nail. And we're just going to clamp this into place with some pair of these needle nose vice grips. Okay. That's one. Here's the other one. And we're basically going to tack this up about the same way we did our lamination. Tack here, tack here, tack there, tack there. So, oopsie. That one's not down all the way. Alrighty. Everything's tacked. Now we just gotta weld it. Alright, and there we go. Take a wire brush and just so that's basically all the welding we're going to do. I might come back and I might bubble tip the jaws, but really, that's all the welding. So now we're going to go to our grinding phase and clean everything up real quick, and we should be done. Okay, everybody, so got all of our welding done. Now it's time for the final step, and that's just this ain't the final step, but this is the main final step. This is your shining up. And right now we're going to go back to our grinder. And if you had a wire disc, that would be wonderful. Just go across here and knock off all the little slag BBs, but I don't. So we're not really going to worry about them because we're going to get them anyway. But what I'm using right now is a old grinding disc. And this one has really been worn down, and it's actually a really fine disc right now. This is probably like a 220 grit right now because it's been worn down so much. And we're just going to go across here real quick, and we're going to flush all the jaws up and shine everything up real quick. So make sure you got your eye pro on, ear pro on preferable, and sure get the camera back in here. And we'll work on this real quick. Alright, well, we got the jaws all nice and shined up. Got a pretty good offset. A little warped in the middle, but that's okay. That'll work just fine. Okay, everybody, so this is what we ended up with. Went in, came in pretty rough looking. It still is kind of rough looking. Probably going to have to soak it in vinegar. Try and get all this stuff off of it, but went and sped it up a little bit. Took some extra metal off. Laminated offset. Put a nice base plate on it. Short chain, plenty of good swivels. And to be honest, guys, I think this is going to make one fine trap. So, hope you guys liked it. Like, comment, subscribe, and there should be more to come, hopefully. So, yeah.